So it's my third week of cooking a brand new recipe every single week, and the reason why I chose skirt steak was because, believe it or not, as someone that's been an avid home cook for 5 years at this point, I've never cooked myself steak, and I've always been a bit intimidated by this cut because it's a little bit more expensive. This was $27 a pound, and I got 0.69 pounds. So a $19 cut of meat right here. We are not playing. We are in the big league with this cut of meat. I finally feel like I'm ready to step up my game with skirt steak. The other reason why I wanted to cook this was actually because of a bit of an online debate and debacle that I'm sure you've heard of if you've been on the internet at all in the past couple of months, and that is seed oil versus olive oil versus butter, lard, ghee, more animal-based fats. If I can give you a bit of my slightly informed, but not too informed point of view, I think canola oil has been a bit of a scapegoat in the media because not of anything that canola oil did wrong, but because of its advantages. And like many things in this world, the reason why you love something is also the reason why you hate something. So the good thing about canola oil is that it is processed more, heated more, or there's some chemicals added that make it purer. It removes impurities in the oil that have flavor, that make it go rancid faster, or that make it burn when cooked at a high heat. And because you get more oil out of the seed. So it's a bit more efficient from a business perspective. And this is why corporations like McDonald's and all the big food conglomerates use it in their food because it's very shelf stable and it's so neutral that it can be used for almost any purpose. What ends up happening is seed oil is so common in ultra processed foods that have negative health outcomes that when the media wants to point their fingers at something, as they do every couple of years, some years it's fats, some decades it's sugar, some decades it's carbs, but what the real problem is just an overconsumption of ultra processed foods. So to me, the solution here is just to eat less ultra processed foods and cook in your tiny little New York City kitchen and create a delicious moment for yourself. And it begs the question, do seed oils have a role in your kitchen? Now, I personally do think that seed oils have a role if you're cooking delicious skirt steak or something else that needs to be cooked at high heat, because you can cook this at high heat and not get any off flavors that you would get if you used a nicer olive oil. So first up in this recipe is just boiling some potatoes. I have some cute little potatoes right here. I totally did not buy them because there's adorable little potato characters on them. I mean, how could I resist? Can you blame a girl? So I just have the pot of potatoes here. I'm going to bring it to a boil and then let it cook for about 18 to 20 minutes. So while the potatoes cook, we're gonna cook the horseradish sauce. This is gonna be a nice, punchy, creamy sauce that will envelop the potatoes and then also be used as a side sauce to dip our skirt steak in. It's going to be really tasty. If you've never tried horseradish, it's like a spicy pickled vegetable, like a radish. The recipe is about a cup of yogurt, and then the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of horseradish. A little bit of pickle juice, so something that is acidic and spicy if that's what you're into. This is a nice and juicy lemon. That was the most satisfying squirt of my life. Also to the horseradish, I'm going to add about 15 cracks of black pepper, and then I'm going to add some chives. Mix, mix, mix. And now I'm going to taste the horseradish, see if it needs anything more before letting it sit. This should be zingy, salty. Let's see. Okay, I think it needs a little more lemon. This pan is nice and hot, so I'm going to add a little bit of neutral oil. In my case, this is canola, to the pan, and let it heat up a little bit. So this is where we see the real benefit of seed oil. This is very, very high heat right now, and there's no burning of the oil. If you were here to smell it with me, you would know it smells fine. Whereas if I had used an olive oil, there would be a scary burnt smell in the air right now. Now that it's steaming a little bit, we're ready to put our skirt steak on. So I'm just going to lay it away from me. And we're just going to let it cook up for about 3 minutes here. In the meantime, our potatoes have been cooking for about 18 minutes here, so I'm just gonna check to see if they're fork tender. Now we have our potatoes that are done boiling. I'm just going to drain it. We're gonna add it back to the pot and crush up a couple of them. And ready to receive the horseradish. So I'm just going to put 1 big spoonful in. Now our potatoes are nice and sauced up and ready to receive our steak. All right, now that there's been a bit of a crust developed, I'm just going to flip the steak and let it cook for another 3 to 4 minutes. And this nice, beautiful crust here would not have been possible without using the canola oil. That high heat tolerable oil makes you able to cook your meat at a higher heat and get that gorgeous crust, and that crust means flavor. That crust is the Maillard reaction. That's your meat proteins caramelizing and adding that additional layer of absolutely deliciousness. We are going against the grain, so that means it's a bit of a harder cut for us right now in the moment, but in our mouth, when it's actually time to eat this delicious skirt steak, it's going to be nice and tender and just a beautiful experience. I'm gonna sprinkle that with a little bit of Malden's flaky sea salt. Horseradish sauce. All right, I have my delicious skirt steak right here, my fork and knife, and I am so hungry and I'm so excited to try this. Let's have a taste. My impression of this is the steak is perfectly cooked, even though I had a bit of a mishap with my hand. Yep, I did completely spill the boiling potato water on my hand, and yep, it really hurts, but I can still make all these great signs that show just how much I love this dish. The horseradish sauce is such a winner. This sauce would be good on literally anything you put on it. The potatoes, it's amazing. The steak, it's amazing. There's nice acidity from the lemon juice sprinkled throughout, as well as the horseradish. And the steak is perfectly cooked. Thank you, canola oil. Thank you, seed oils, for all that you do for society. This is a great, easy meal, an amazing third recipe for the new year. Thank you again, Carla Lolly Music, for a fantastic recipe. I do hope you subscribe and stick around next week to see what we're cooking, and let me know if there's any recipes that I should do next.